Welcome to the Daily Globe. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon for more breaking updates. We live in a world of instant convenience, where a click on your phone can summon goods from across the globe to your doorstep. But behind every delivery and every stocked shelf lies a vast, hidden network that keeps our modern lives running smoothly. Global shipping, massive container ships, the lifeblood of international trade, cross oceans along routes shaped by a handful of crucial shortcuts. Man-made canals. These floating giants carry everything from electronics to food, connecting continents and economies in ways we rarely see but always depend on. Without these engineering marvels, ships would face perilous, weeks-long detours. Imagine New York to San Francisco via the tip of South America, braving treacherous waters like Cape Horn. The extra time, fuel, and risk would make global trade slower, more expensive, and far less reliable. Canals, like the Suez and Panama, are more than just waterways. They're strategic choke points, granting enormous economic and geopolitical power to those who control them. These narrow passages are the gates through which much of the world's commerce must pass, making them vital to the global economy. When these arteries are blocked, as with the Ever Given in the Suez Canal, the shockwaves disrupt global supply chains and cost billions. Ships pile up, goods are delayed, and industries around the world feel the impact almost instantly. Our reliance on these narrow passages exposes a vulnerability, fueling a constant search for alternative routes. Every blockage or threat sparks debate about how to make global trade more resilient and less dependent on a few critical points. The dream of a new canal isn't just about engineering, it's about reshaping global commerce and power. Building a new waterway could open up new opportunities, shift trade patterns, and even change the fortunes of entire nations. Enter the Nicaraguan Canal, a bold proposal to rival Panama, promising to handle the world's largest ships and offer a new path between the Atlantic and Pacific. Its scale and ambition captured imaginations worldwide. Backed by a mysterious Chinese billionaire and a staggering $50 billion price tag, it was pitched as a game-changer for Nicaragua and the Western Hemisphere. Supporters claimed it would bring jobs, investment, and a new era of prosperity to the region. Could this project transform a small nation and shift the balance of global trade? Or would it become another cautionary tale of ambition outpacing reality? Let's explore the rise and fall of the Nicaragua Canal dream, and what it reveals about the future of global trade. The vision of a Nicaraguan canal dates back to the 1500s, when Spanish explorers imagined a shortcut between the Atlantic and Pacific. For centuries, the idea lingered, tempting but out of reach. In the 1800s, as the U.S. sought a coast-to-coast link, Nicaragua's geography made it the favored route. Even Cornelius Vanderbilt ran a transit company there during the gold rush. But political instability and clever lobbying, like sending senators stamps of Nicaraguan volcanoes, shifted U.S. focus to Panama. The Panama Canal opened in 1914, sidelining Nicaragua's dream. Yet, the idea never died, resurfacing as a symbol of hope and ambition for Nicaragua. Throughout the 20th century, proposals re-emerged, promising prosperity and a place in global trade. This long history set the stage for the dramatic 21st century revival, as new global powers eyed Central America. In 2013, Nicaragua's canal dream roared back to life, reigniting hopes of transforming the nation's future and reshaping global trade routes. President Ortega granted a sweeping 50-year concession to the enigmatic HKND group, led by Chinese billionaire Wang Jing, a figure few outside China had ever heard of. Wang promised a canal 3 times longer than Panama's, at a staggering $50 billion cost, an audacious vision that would dwarf anything Nicaragua had ever attempted. The world speculated, was this China's move to challenge U.S. influence in the Americas? Was this the dawn of a new era in global geopolitics? A Chinese-run canal could give Beijing a strategic edge, fitting neatly into its Belt and Road ambitions, and potentially shifting the balance of power in the region. But the reality was murky. Wang insisted HKND was a private venture, not a state project, and Beijing stayed silent, fueling even more intrigue and suspicion. International media and analysts scrambled to uncover the truth, but answers remained elusive. Was Wang a front for hidden interests, or just a bold dreamer? Doubts grew. How could one man, no matter how wealthy, fund such a colossal project? Skepticism spread among investors and locals alike. Then, disaster struck. Wang's fortune, tied to China's volatile stock market, collapsed in 2015, wiping out much of his wealth almost overnight. With no state backing and no credible investors willing to step in, the project's financial foundation crumbled, leaving only broken promises behind. The grand vision faded away, leaving Nicaragua with a contract, but no money, no machinery, and no canal. Just dashed hopes and abandoned dreams. The dragon that promised to reshape Central America turned out to be a paper tiger, leaving a legacy of questions, skepticism, and what-ifs. The Panama Canal, a marvel of engineering and a vital artery for global commerce, has long been the king of transoceanic shipping. For over a century it has connected the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, saving ships weeks of travel and fueling international trade. But in recent years, severe droughts, driven by climate change and shifting weather patterns, have threatened its very operation, pushing the canal to the brink of crisis. Water levels in Gatun Lake, essential for the canal's locks to function, dropped to historic lows, revealing cracked earth and parched landscapes where water once flowed freely. The result, daily ship transits were slashed, creating massive backlogs and costly delays. Ships waited days, sometimes weeks, just for a chance to pass through. Shipping companies paid millions in auction fees just to secure passage, driving up costs for goods and putting pressure on global supply chains. The crisis exposed the canal's vulnerability and the risks of relying on a single choke point for so much of the world's trade. Suddenly, the world realized how fragile this lifeline truly was. Suddenly, alternatives like the long-discussed Nicaragua Canal seemed less like distant fantasies and more like urgent necessities, sparking renewed debate and interest. For global trade, the Panama drought was a wake-up call. Diversification was no longer optional. Shipping companies began exploring new routes and contingency plans. The search for new routes intensified, breathing life into ambitious projects once dismissed as too grand or too risky, as the world sought to secure its supply chains. The world was reminded, even the mightiest arteries can run dry, and the future of global trade may depend on our ability to adapt. Despite a flashy groundbreaking in 2014, the Nicaragua Canal never moved beyond the planning stage. The promised machinery and workers never arrived. Construction sites fell silent. The $50 billion price tag, 4 times Nicaragua's GDP, proved insurmountable. After Wang Jing's fortune evaporated, no credible investors stepped in. The project was plagued by secrecy, inadequate studies, and unanswered engineering questions. Without transparency or solid plans, international partners stayed away. In 2024, after a decade of inaction, Nicaragua canceled HKND's concession. The government's promise to take over was seen as little more than face-saving. The grand vision dissolved, leaving a cautionary tale of ambition without substance. While the canal remained a fantasy, its impact on Nicaraguans was painfully real. Law 840 gave HKND sweeping powers to seize land along the proposed route, threatening to displace over 120,000 people, mostly rural farmers and indigenous communities. Offered little compensation, they faced losing homes and livelihoods. This sparked massive protests, one of Nicaragua's largest social movements. Campesinos marched, demanding the repeal of Law 840 and accusing the government of selling out national sovereignty. The state's response was harsh blockades, intimidation, and repression. The canal project sowed division and anxiety, pitting neighbor against neighbor. Even after the project's collapse, Law 840 remains, leaving communities in limbo. The human cost years of fear, conflict, and broken promises for a canal that never was. The canal's route would have cut through Lake Nicaragua, Central America's largest freshwater source and a unique ecosystem. Dredging a deep channel threatened to destroy habitats, pollute water, and endanger millions who rely on the lake. The path also carved through rainforests and protected reserves, risking deforestation and the loss of endangered species. Environmental assessments were rushed and widely condemned as inadequate. Critics warned of irreversible damage for speculative economic gain. The project galvanized opposition at home and abroad, symbolizing reckless disregard for nature. In the end, the collapse of the canal was a financial failure, but for the environment, it was a bullet dodged. Sometimes, not building is the wisest choice. The failure of the Nicaragua Canal hasn't stopped the search for new trade routes. Instead, countries are turning to more practical alternatives. Mexico's interoceanic corridor, launched in 2024, is a modern rail line linking Atlantic and Pacific ports, offering a faster, cheaper bypass to Panama for some cargo. Thailand, long considering a canal, now plans a $28 billion land bridge. Deep-sea ports connected by highways and rail across the Kra Isthmus. These projects are less expensive, quicker to build, and have a smaller environmental footprint than canals. They also sidestep the sovereignty and security issues of new waterways. The future of global logistics may be integrated transport networks, not just monumental canals. The world is adapting, finding new ways to keep goods moving. Today, the Nicaragua Canal is a ghost, remembered by those it threatened and in the headlines it once dominated. The $50 billion dream collapsed under its own weight, a cautionary tale of ambition without transparency or realism. The first lesson: secrecy and rushed deals doom megaprojects from the start. Open data, public debate, and expert consultation are essential for trust and investment. The second lesson: development must respect people and the environment. Grassroots protests and scientific warnings proved you can't ignore local rights or fragile ecosystems. Finally, the future of trade isn't in singular continent-splitting canals, it's in creative, sustainable solutions, improving existing routes, and building integrated networks. The era of the ghost canal is over, the world is moving on.